Let's pivot to the Cincinnati Bengals, who are doing their damnedest to get ready to actually win one of their first 2 games of the season. In Joe Burrow's career, they've only won 1 time in their first 2 weeks of the regular season. The starters played the first quarter in the preseason opener in Philadelphia. Joe Burrow looking good, 9 for 10, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase looking good, 4 catches, 77 yards and a touchdown. Defense, maybe, defense played. Defense needs the work. Defense is going to be the question mark for the team, especially with Trey Hendrickson not there. And, this is what the Bengals need, because they've got an opportunity right out of the gates to beat the Browns week 1 and get things moving in the right direction. And, Michael, that's just critical for this Bengals team, that you flip one of those early season games from last year and they would have made the playoffs.
It's interesting how everybody approaches it, how different teams approach it. So we just talked about Baltimore and Indianapolis. Well, from Baltimore's perspective, I'll bet you John Harbaugh was across there thinking, well, I'm glad we made the decision we did on our quarterback. Lamar Jackson hasn't played a preseason game since 2021 because they don't have to. They don't have to put Lamar Jackson out there. They know who he is, and they just say, no, we're not going to do this. They lost J.K. Dobbins 2021 for the season. I think it was maybe his first carry of the game. He blows out his knee, and there it is. And so they decided they're not going to play Lamar Jackson. So Cincinnati, why can't Cincinnati do that? Exactly what you said. They've gotten off to these slow starts, and it's really cost them. It cost them last year. And so you've got something to prove if you're the Bengals. You've got to do something different than you have the past couple of years, because you got Joe Burrow, you got an MVP candidate, and if you get off to another slow start in a tough division, you could be home watching again. So it's just interesting to me how different franchises approach the preseason and why they do it.
And last night really was critical for the Bengals to not be rusty and ready to go when the season rolls around. Said Burrow after the game, we got to be better. Too many procedural penalties, too many errors, things like that are going to happen. It wasn't clean enough across the board. Well, good. That's why you did it. And maybe you do it again next week in the preseason, presumably not in week 3, but keep it going, get ready, and be ready to go when the real games start, because they're dealing with the Ravens in their own division. Who knows what the Steelers are going to be? The AFC is murderer's row generally right now. You got to start strong. You got to finish strong, and you got to be strong in the middle. You can't be losing games. You can't be losing games that you should have won, because it could be that one game that changes everything when it's time to figure out the playoff tree, whether it's getting you in or whether it's getting you a home game or whether it's getting you the 1 seed. The margin for error when you're talking about a collection of great teams is very, very small.
And, Mike, you know how else they can start strong? Why don't they sign Trey Hendrickson? The rookie that we talked a lot about, Shamar Stewart, looks like he can play. He played well yesterday. He made some big plays when he was out there. And so you added to a defense that was not reliable last year, but Trey Hendrickson is there as a hold-in, and you still haven't come up with a contract. If you really want to say we're not going to do things now that we did in the past, we're going to learn from our mistakes. Well, you got to sign your best defensive player, and so once they do, if they do that, then I'll know they're really serious about taking the next step, because when you're in the division with Pittsburgh and Baltimore. You got to do everything you can to stay up with those guys.
The disconnect is you got a coaching staff and a roster that understands the importance of starting strong. You got a front office that really doesn't care about any of that, because it's about sending messages, it's about flexing your muscles, it's about reminding the players who's in charge, and we're going to do things our way. And you've got to contract Trey Hendrickson for this year, and if that's not good enough, then it's up to us to decide whether or not to give you a better one. I don't think they're thrilled he's not practicing, and I wonder what's going on. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.